Hey guys, it's Drew here, quick video blog. I wanted to talk today about the Jeffrey Epstein things that have been going on. I wanted to discuss this today. In this video, I want to skip over all the usual, all the normal takes that people are making, that people are taking on this. Oh, how could you commit suicide and yada yada yada. I want to get, I want to get straight down into it. I want to skip over all the obvious things and all the obvious normalized takes that people have on this thing. And I just want to get down to the nitty gritty. In my last video, I had explained how I believe in this country for many years, not just now, but for many, many years. There's a dirty underbelly of government run by, maybe it's FBI, CIA, I don't know, but there's this dirty underbelly of government that takes that does mafia style hits on specific targets, political dissidents, people who could shake things up, people who could make things very complicated for powerful people. And that's what my hunch was. I think that these groups of people are behind mass shootings. I think that they're behind a lot of things in this country that involve the deaths of people and many times innocent people. Jeffrey Epstein is no innocent person, but I believe that he was taken out in this way as well. Now, there are I follow Q, I follow a lot of these underground information sites that kind of tell you things ahead of time, and I know that it's a possibility that he was not actually suicided. I know it's a possibility that he was being moved to another location or swapped out. I know it's a possibility that he's in witness protection. I know it's a possibility that there's chess being played here. I know that's a possibility. But if that's not the case and he was definitely killed, if he was definitely killed, then I think it's important that in this video I talk about the fact that we, for a very long time, not just this year, not just the last 10 years, not just the last 20 years, for a very long time, like in this country, even with the JFK murder, right, with the JFK killing, for a very long time in this country, people of power have used, black operations. I'm talking about killings and mafia style tactics to take out their opposition. Okay, and the reason why I'm focusing on this today for this video is because I want the political conversation in this country to go to another level. I want the political conversation in this country to go to that next level. If it's going to take Jeffrey Epstein dying in this way, or if it's going to take the news about him dying in this way or potentially dying in this way to get there, then let's go there. Let's go there. I don't like how, before, when you used to talk about this stuff, before, people would immediately write you off as a conspiracy theorist and say it's impossible, it's impossible, it's impossible. The president would be under arrest if they ordered the killing of somebody, and so forth, and all these things. Like when I theorized that the Obamas had what's that lady? I forgot her name. Joan Rivers. I theorized that the Obamas had Joan Rivers killed because she came out saying that Michelle Obama was. She revealed something that they didn't want revealed, and it was that Michelle Obama was not necessarily a woman, which is a rumor that had been going around for a very long time. I personally don't know if it's true or not, but I noticed that after she revealed that, she ended up dead. And it was from a botched surgery, and then the Obamas wrote a letter to her, which is very unusual for them to write a letter to Joan Rivers, to a celebrity that passed away. I don't know who else they've done that with, but to me, watching and viewing this and seeing this, I honestly believe that that she was taken out. I believe that Justice Scalia was a victim of foul play. I believe that Seth Rich was a victim of foul play. These are they're not really just hunches. It's just that knowing how people in power operate and how they have for thousands of years. If you read the 48 Laws of Power, this is commonplace. This is something that is normal at the higher, levels of power. For us here, for us citizens on the ground level, We may not want to examine these things. We may not want to look at these things. But I think that it really helps citizens become more aware of the kind of country that they're living in and become more intelligent when they are willing to admit to themselves that they live under a government where people in power have the ability to send government agents from either the CIA, the FBI, or just you know, black ops to do their bidding. I think it really advances the conversation forward from all this politically correct nonsense. Because, like, for example, the mainstream media, despite all logic and common sense pointing to the obvious, the mainstream media is still pushing the narrative that it was a suicide. Now, everybody with an ounce of sense knows that it was not a suicide. But about 10 years ago, if this happened, people, citizens, your fellow brother, your fellow sister, your friends, fellow Americans, whatever, would be insisting that if you think that there was anything other than a suicide, that you are a conspiracy theorist, and they just write you off. I actually love the fact that these things are now coming to light. I love the fact that now we can advance the conversation forward, because before, we had to dance around the truth, and we had to make all these like politically correct arguments and focus on just the surface level detail that the mainstream media would provide us with. I remember when 9/11, when Building 7 fell, and we were called, people who didn't believe the official story, we were called truthers. And and they kind of made fun of you for seeking the truth and wanting to know the truth about things. And today, you know I wouldn't say we're called truthers. We were called conspiracy theorists for a long time. Alex Jones was kicked off of every single platform for his investigation of things and looking into things and exposing them. And so it's still, big media really desperately trying to hold on to the control and the influence that they once had. But the problem is that their way of doing things is old. And at the end of the day, nobody really believes that Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide. So they're still pushing that old narrative, and they're still trying to, they're still trying to have like that control. But I think a lot of the public has been red pilled indirectly by this event, which is what I love. Because at the end of the day, I've had far too many red pills myself. So I'm very skeptical of everything that comes out in the news. I don't believe any of it, especially like the news about these mass shootings, the news about these like about terrorist events. I never take their word for it, because you just know that they're trying to push an agenda. They're trying to push your emotions to feel one way, to think one way. And people just take the news, they hear it, they read it, and they accept it. They don't even question it. Well, this will make people question it. This will make people think about it. This will make people really say to themselves, well, how can this billionaire, who, pleaded not guilty, was under suicide watch, kill themselves? That's what people are thinking now. And I'm glad that the conversation has come here. It's finally here. And at the end of the day, the whole thing about the Clinton body count was trending on Twitter. And I've been saying it for a long time. When somebody has like, you know, I would say like 10 or more dead bodies tied to them, and they're all committed suicide in some way, or they all had dirt on you, they all knew you, friends, family, associates, or whatever, they all committed suicide in some way. It's very suspicious, okay? And for us to not look into it, or for us to turn a blind eye to it, is ridiculous. Like, I don't know why we do that in this country. Why we turn a blind eye to things that are just screaming, like, look into this, and it's funny because they erased the Clinton body count hashtag, and they replaced it with Trump body count hashtag, despite the fact that Trump doesn't have a body count. He doesn't have people tied to him that he doesn't have numerous people tied to him that died. Trump does have plenty of questionable people around him, but I think that as a billionaire and as somebody who's well connected in real estate and in construction and in the gaming industry and so forth, as Trump has been, he's been around everybody. He's been around dictators. He's been around celebrities. He's been around athletes. He's been around all types of people. Trump is that he's very extremely successful. So I'm not really surprised that he's been around so many people, and he's extremely famous. So I'm not surprised. But when you have a person as famous as Hillary and Bill Clinton, and everybody you kind of track to them, that has had dirt on them, has somehow mysteriously, committed suicide, is very suspicious. No matter what, it's very suspicious. And we cannot write off these things anymore. We have to investigate them. We have to look into them. I feel like the world is not necessarily, there's still a large portion of people, I would say mainly liberals, who allow the mainstream narrative to kind of direct the way that they think about things. They like to use their verifiable sources because their verifiable sources, conveniently bash Trump and conveniently parrot the views that they already hold inside. But I love the fact that now even leftists are questioning their views. I mean, we've come a long way if that's what's happening. So I think, as once again, as a country, we need to realize that, you know, there's there's the mainstream media's take on things, and then there's what really happened. And it's okay if we watch the mainstream media for entertainment, but do yourselves a favor and take a step further. Find out what's really going on. I used to follow Alex Jones because he would touch on some of these things, but I also follow Q. I don't believe everything that Q puts out because a lot of things are that he talks about. He talks in code and he talks in like, it's like a covert operation that's going on. And I I have looked into the information that Q has put out, and it's amazing sometimes the accuracy. He says something is going to happen, and then it happens. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. So I think that if you are interested in really knowing how power works in this country, get educated on how power works in general. Follow Q. Um, Look for the real details. Look for the real story. Always look for truth. Don't just settle for the mainstream narrative. That's all I got to say. Peace.